Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made this set of Mushu inspired ears. I think these are super fun and I really loved the unique fabrics that I found to use on them, as well as this little Mushu toy. So if you want to see how I made these ears, then just keep watching. This first thing is totally optional, but I had this little Mushu figurine that I thought would be really cute to add to this set of ears. For the bow, I'm going to be using a piece of felt that measures 4 by 4, and then I'll also be using this ribbed yellow fabric. You only need about 10 inches of this, and then you also are going to want this really cool looking overlay fabric. I got this from Joann's. It's kind of like a red netting, and then I'm going to be using this red satin type fabric as well. So starting with the satin fabric, I'm going to trace out 4 of the largest template that I have linked down below for you guys. This is the ear cutting line template, and I am actually not tracing these perfectly. I'm just kind of cutting around them because I was trying to conserve the fabric and make sure I had enough. And then when I got to the netting fabric, I did the same thing because I wanted to make sure that I had a little bit of excess. So I cut out 4 of these satin red ones, and then I cut out 4 of these red netted ones as well. So I have like 8 sets of red types of fabric. And then I'm taking the ear foam and batting template, and I'm going to trace 4 of these onto a sheet of cardboard and then go ahead and cut those out as well. I know that here I'm only cutting out 3, but I will end up with 4. So here you can see I have 4 of the cardboard ears, and now we are going to start making the bow. So for the bow, I took some inspiration from Mushu's horns, and I'm going to be using the blue pom-pom trim as an accent on these ears. I'm going to start by folding over my ribbed fabric onto that little felt square and just tap it down into the hot glue, and then I'm going to fold over the other half of fabric and tap that down into a line of hot glue as well. Now this does leave the ends of the ears open, but that's okay because we're going to be adding some trim onto the sides of the bow to close it up and make it look nice and finished. So taking that blue pom-pom trim, I'm going to be kind of inserting this into the open ends of the fabric, but I didn't like how much excess fabric I had. So as you can see here, I'm kind of folding it inward like a little envelope. So I'm just very carefully like folding the edge of the fabric inside of that little pocket. And then I'm going to cut this strip of pom-pom trim to fit inside of that little pocket as well and just glue it all down at the same time. Now this can be a little tricky when you're first trying it just because the glue can get a little bit messy. I did end up tacking down some of the fabric because it kept catching on my trim when I tried to glue it down all at once, but I did not glue it down as a whole. It was just kind of keeping the fabric in place while I attached this trim. And then I went in and did a thin line of hot glue and just kind of closed up that little fabric envelope around my pom-pom trim. I really liked how this turned out on the edges. I think it really did bring more of like a Mushu vibe to the ears. So I'm going to continue on the other side of the bow and just repeat these steps. Trying to learn from my mistakes this time, I am tacking down the fabric onto the felt ahead of time before continuing on with the trim. So I am really trying to create like this little fabric envelope before trying to glue in that trim. Moving on to the center of the bow, I'm going to accordion fold this square into a bow shape, and I'm going to be wrapping just some red satin ribbon. This is just from Dollar Tree around the center. Now I do use a lighter to seal the edges, so I just very gently wave the lighter over the edge and that stops the ribbon from fraying. I am using a couple dots of hot glue just to tack down my bow and make sure that it doesn't come apart while I'm trying to do this. And then I glue down one end of the satin ribbon and wrap it around the center. And then once I've gone all the way around, I'm going to go ahead and glue down the other side. Sometimes if I feel like the bow needs a little more security, I will wrap the ribbon around more than once. It just kind of depends what you want it to look like and how much you feel like you need to really tighten down the bow. But after wrapping the ribbon all the way around, I'm going to cut off the excess and then glue down the end. Once again, I'm using a lighter to seal the edge of the ribbon, and then I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. After I glued this down, I am going to be using these little Dollar Tree clips to secure my bow and just allow the glue to fully set in place so that my bow doesn't come apart. Again, the clip is from Dollar Tree. It comes in a 5 or a 6 pack, and it's super, super great. So next, moving on to the actual ears themselves, I am going to cut another layer of something because originally I thought I might not need this, but I did. So I'm going to cut using the biggest ear cutting line template once more and cut just a red sheet of felt. So this is just a simple sheet of felt. I get this from Walmart in a multi-pack, and I'm going to be cutting 4 of these just like I did before. So at this point, for the ears, you should have 4 cardboard ears, 4 felt ears, 4 red satin type fabric ears, and 4 of the red netted fabric ears as well. This assembly will look really familiar if you guys have made ears with me before, but you're going to start with the felt first, and you're going to do a thin line of hot glue and then just fold over your felt and tap it down into the glue. I do work in 3 segments, so I do top, side, side, then close up the bottom last, which is actually 4 segments, even though I said 3, but I do the bottom last, so in my head it like doesn't count. But anyway, I would work in smaller segments if this is your first time, just because you want to make sure you allow yourself time so that glue does not dry on you. I did pull away for a second just to iron out my satin fabric. It had some really big wrinkles in it, and I didn't want it to ruin the ear. So after I had ironed it and gotten all the wrinkles out, now I'm continuing on with the hot gluing process, which again is just hot gluing a line and then folding over the fabric gently and tapping it down into the glue. I do have silicone finger covers that I use sometimes, again from Dollar Tree. This video is not sponsored. Dear goodness, I wish it would be, but it's not. And then using a Dollar Tree rotary blade, I cut down the center of the bottom portion of the ear, and again I fold up the bottom last. I just find that this helps with limiting the amount of puckering that can happen with the fabric on the bottom. But so now we've done 2 layers of fabric. So you should at this point have cardboard covered in felt, covered in satin fabric, and next we're going to do the netted fabric. This one I did pull out the silicone finger cover for because that netting is not going to protect my finger at all. So I'm just folding over the fabric into the hot glue again, trying not to burn myself. And if you don't have a silicone finger cover, you can also use a silicone spatula or something like that. Just obviously like maybe not something you cook with on the regular. But after folding over the netting, then I will close up the bottom portion, and that is all of the layers for 1/2 of an ear. And next we will move on to creating a whole ear together. But I did want to show you guys this fabric because it's beautiful. So in order to create a whole ear, you're just going to apply a pretty good amount of hot glue. I like to focus my hot glue where I see cardboard. I don't like to get the hot glue too close to the edge because it can get a little messy. But after applying a pretty good amount, then I'm going to firmly press down another 1/2 on top. And you can feel when this is done because the glue will have cooled down. So right now I can feel that that's very warm to the touch. Once it cools down, then I will let go. For the trim around the ear, I decided to go with this red pom-pom trim. I liked the pattern of it, and I liked that it added another shade of red to these ears. And I'm just doing a thin line of hot glue into that little crack or crevice on the ear, and then I'm going to stretch my trim and just gently tap it down into the glue. And then I will cut off the excess and use a lighter to sear my edge. Go ahead and repeat those steps to make yourself a second ear, and next we will move on to assembling the headband. So for actually assembling the headband, I wanted to wrap Mushu's tail around the bow so that it looked like he's more a part of the ears than just sitting on top of them, but I did have to snip the plastic between his back and the tail and then re-glue him back together. It doesn't totally matter that he glues back together, if I'm being honest, because he's going to attach to the ears by his feet as well. But I don't know. I tried. To get the spacing correct between my ears, I like to use this ear spacing template that I made for you guys. This is linked down below for you, and it's a free printable that I offer you guys. But if you don't have a printer or don't have a way to print this for yourself, it's about a 2.5 inch gap between ears when I make them. But this is a nice guideline if you can print it. But I'm just going to apply hot glue to the bottom of the ear, and then I'm going to firmly hold that down onto the headband. If you've never made ears before, I highly suggest pulling out a silver Sharpie or something like that to mark the headband so that you know that the ears are going exactly where you need them. I've just made a lot of ears, so I can kind of eyeball it at this point. But just some advice if you are a beginner. And then once the glue had cooled down, then I'm going to move on to the other ear and glue down that one as well. Now, this particular set of ears, I do decide to add trim to the bottom of the ears, and I do wish that I had done that before adding the bow, but it was a later decision that I'm going to show you now. So I am going to take that same pom-pom red trim, and I'm going to be adding that all around the base of the ear. This is pretty simple. I am just adding a thin line of hot glue at the base of the ear, and then I'm going to tap down my trim into it. I do like to pre-measure my trim for this part. I just find it a little bit easier, especially since I already attached the bow at the center, because I am trying not to get glue on the bow, obviously. The nice thing about adding trim on the bottom of the ear too is that it does stop your ears from wiggling. So if you ever have an issue of like the ear didn't glue down super well and you're not really sure how to fix it, sometimes adding a little bit of trim at the base of the ear does help secure your ear and make it a little bit more sturdy on the headband. After I finish adding the trim, I am going to tack down the bow with a couple dots of hot glue just to keep it in place and keep it looking nice and exactly how I want it to be, especially being that the only thing holding this bow right now is Mushu's feet. I wanted to make sure that it stayed in place really well. So I am adding just a dot of hot glue onto the ear and then tapping the bow down onto the ear itself. And that is the final step in making these Mushu inspired ears. I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Please let me know what you think of these ears. Would you have done anything differently? And then what do you guys think about me adding like a little toy, because I kind of love it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it all the way through to the end of this video, please leave me a dragon emoji in the comments, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!